Welcome, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us. My name is Angela Thelen-Baker, and I'm the Communications Officer with the American Library Association's Public Programs Office. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us for today's online learning session, which is the final session in our four-part series on convening deliberative forums. This session is presented by programminglibrarian.org, which is a resource website of the ALA Public Programs Office, and is presented with support from the ALA Cultural Communities Fund. Today's session is part of an ongoing initiative of the Public Programs Office under the leadership of the ALA Public and Cultural Programs Advisory Committee to present professional development opportunities for libraries that support civic engagement initiatives. Many thanks to the ALA Center for Civic Life and all of today's speakers for being such tremendous partners in this effort. Just a reminder that this session is part of a four-part series put together by the ALA Center for Civic Life. You can find archived recordings of our first three sessions at programminglibrarian.org. And if you're interested in learning about other upcoming opportunities from Programming Librarian and the ALA Public Programs Office, please sign up for the monthly Programming Librarian newsletter while you're there. If you are interested in deeper engagement with library models of civic engagement, the ALA Public Programs Office is offering a day-and-a-half pre-conference at the ALA Annual Conference in Anaheim this summer, and that is titled Civic Reflection Builds Community Connections, a program model for libraries. This is an in-depth facilitation training and will feature the Civic Reflection Model, which is appropriate for use in public, academic, special, and school libraries. For more information about that, please visit the conference website, which is alaannual.org. And the Center for Civic Life will also be hosting a pre-conference at the ALA Annual Conference this summer, which will provide attendees an opportunity to participate in a deliberative forum about privacy and learn more about moderating. More information about that pre-conference is also available at the conference website, and I believe Nancy will be telling you a little bit more about that later. Before we get started, just some basic information about communication in this classroom setting. If you are experiencing technical difficulties, please send a private message to our technical support, Angela Hanshaw, describing your problem, and she can help you work through those issues. To send a private message, click on the name Angela Hanshaw in the top left-hand corner of your screen and select Start Chat With, and just describe the problem that you're having to her, and she can help you work through that. We will have a Q&A period after the main presentation, but if you have questions during the presentation, please don't hold back. Feel free to ask them in the chat box. We have several chat moderators in the room with us today, and they'll be happy to help you out. Handouts for this webinar are available for download at the lower left side of your screen. To download the zipped file, which contains several different handouts, select Related Files in the Files module at the bottom left of the screen, and then click on Save to My Computer. And finally, if you experience technical difficulties during the session, don't panic. The complete presentation is being recorded and will be available for download after the program's conclusion for free on programminglibrarian.org. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our first presenter, Nancy Cronick, who is a past ALA president and currently the chair of the ALA Center for Civic Life Advisory Committee.
Thanks, Angie. And I want to also thank Angie Hanshaw, who is helping people on the technical side. Both of them have been terrific partners with us through the Public Programs Office, putting together this series of webinars. I also want to welcome everyone today and thank you again for attending. We've really appreciated all the involvement of people from ALA and beyond, and we look forward to continuing the conversation. Today we have four different presentations, one on planning to hold a forum, another on choosing the topic, a third on partners and allies, and finally one on resources. We also have 2 chat monitors that will be helping you in the chat box. They're very active already. One is Ellen Knutson and another is Debbie Ablock. And several of our presenters will also be in the chat box, and they already are. So anyway. So during our last session, if you had a chance to join us, we suggested that you try a practice session moderating your own forum with your colleagues and friends. If any of you had the courage to jump in and do this, why don't you type into the chat box a description of your experience? Tell us the topic, the audience successes, challenges, and any questions you might have. Stories are great too. So we'd just like to hear more about how your first venture went. So when we talk about convening forums at your library, it's an opportunity for you to do what we call turn outward towards your community. This will help you identify the real needs and aspirations of your community, um, engage you in an authentic way with the community, increase your relevance, significance, and impact, and contribute more of your library's assets to the community. So I want to give you a quiz. I teach, so I love quizzes. Wait a minute, what happened to my quiz here? I think we lost our quiz. So I guess we will skip the quiz, but sorry about that. So we have a quiz that you can download. It's called the Turn Quiz. And in the Turn Quiz, you can decide how much your library either turns inward or outward. This quiz comes from the Harwood Institute for Public Innovation, and it can give you a sense of just what kinds of actions you're involved with and what they mean for your involvement with the community. Some of you may have seen Rich Harwood speak at ALA. He was the president's program speaker, and he will be back at ALA this summer again. I'll tell you more about that later. So let me move on to talk a little bit about what some call the public involvement continuum. So this is a matrix that's put together by some colleagues up in Canada. And it reflects what leaders across the profession are now talking about in the need to engage, embed, and integrate libraries into the life of their communities. As you can see in this continuum, the public involvement that we show here starts on the left side, which is more of the more traditional activities of the library, informing and in educating, and moving on to the right as we grow into other arenas like engaging, participating, and partnering and collaborating. So it's at the right side of this continuum where community engagement really resides, and that's part of what we're going to talk about more today in convening. So what are the goals of public dialogue and deliberation? Well, here is another matrix. This one is put together by the National Coalition on Dialogue and Deliberation. So once you embrace hosting deliberative forums at your library and you're hopefully turning more outward toward your community, you can move more into these different order of goals that the National Coalition on Dialogue and Deliberation describes. So, and part of it is deciding just what kind of goals you want for these efforts. You will see in this matrix that there are defined 3 orders of goals, first, second, and third. And there's many possibilities for this work. There's not only dialogue and deliberation, the deliberative forums we've been talking about, but there's different ways you can use deliberation to achieve these different levels of goals, first, second, and third levels of goals. But I suggest that rather than move to the right of the matrix, I suggest you start small. Just jump in. Identify a topic like privacy, the topic framed by your colleagues at ALA that we're going to do this summer at the annual conference. Pick a date, publicize, and attract participants. Designate a moderator and recorder, and go ahead and convene the forum. Following the forum, assess your experience. Then start planning for future forums. So once you're more seasoned, you may want to explore second and third order goal options. Options that libraries like Virginia Beach, Johnson County, Kansas, and Kansas City University libraries have pursued. And uh, we have described some of their work in previous webinars, and we may hear more about them today as well. So here's a list of the core principles of public engagement, again, developed by the National Coalition on Dialogue and Deliberation. They list 7 goals, or 7 principles, and I want to just highlight a few. One of them is careful planning and preparation. We've talked about that before. The better you plan and prepare, the better these forums are going to go. But inclusion and diversity is a really important one as well. We want to make sure that we have a variety of people at our forums, not just people who see things one way or of one type of demographic. And Carolyn Kaywood, who's going to speak later, is going to talk more about that topic, as well as the next principle, which is collaboration and shared purpose. Is who do we work with to do these forums? I want to go further down and talk a little bit about impact and action. Action, while not necessary when you do forums, sometimes people do forums just to give people the experience of democratic discourse. It's really essential to achieving some of those higher level goals. And finally, sustained engagement and participatory culture. Again, a principle that your library will want to pursue if you commit to this work at a higher level. So next, I wanted to talk a little bit about how we clarify the benefits of this work to the library. So there's lots of ways that this can benefit the library. One is just grounding the library more in its community, giving it a leadership role. And for those of you who've tried this, I think once we get involved, people start to recognize the library as a leader in this arena. It makes the library more visible, particularly more visible in ways that it may not have been visible in the past. It's good for our reputation and credibility. As neutral providers of these forums, it makes us valued in the community, people who can bring together people in the community. It also helps us increase our impact of our services and finally, hopefully cultivate new partners, friends, donors, and perhaps more support. So one of the actions you want to take in preparing to have a deliberative forum is to create a compelling narrative about it, and a concise one at that. You want to develop what we call an elevator speech, explaining what this is all about. Now you need to aim it at different audiences. So if you want to convince administrators at your library that this would be a good thing to do, you want to explain to them why they would want to do this. If you want partners to join you in sponsoring, you want to give them a sense of why it would be attractive for them to be a part of this. And finally, if you want to attract participants, you need to develop a good way to attract them. Why would they want to attend? Be careful not to use too many words like deliberation. After 4 of these webinars, hopefully you understand what deliberation is, but I found in the work I've done in this arena, people really don't understand it. So talk about it in more general language, like that these forums will give people opportunities in your community to have a civil conversation about issues of common concern. Something very similar to that kind of more personal, friendly language, not too long of words. And I think it's also important to identify what kinds of opportunities there are for your library in the narrative. And different kinds of libraries are going to have different interests, and each library is going to have its own set of goals and concerns. So you also want to identify success indicators. You should be tracking your offerings just like you do any other programming or services. How effective are they? How many people come? How many have you offered? How many groups, perhaps? How many people did you train? But you should also start looking for more meaningful measures related to what we call civic health. So if you turn outward, more outward to your community, you can find new ways to determine impact. Does your effort have an impact on your community and help reposition your library within that community? You can consider such indicators as the Civic Health Index that's produced by the National Conference on Citizenship, which focuses on various categories of civic health that are actually collected via the US Census. And some of those categories may give you some ideas of different ways that you might so-called count or measure the success you've had in this work. So in measuring impact, I suggest that we start with 3 different ways to do it. The first one is measuring community impact. How much have you actually strengthened conditions for change within your community? For example, development of stronger networks among existing and new groups and organizations. So when you find those partners, are they new partners? Are they strengthening already existing partnerships, etc.? You might find new, more constructive norms of public discourse. An example of this is how Howard County, Maryland, the public library there, had a county-wide civility project to do just this. And you could see bumper stickers and all kinds of signs just driving around the county that people were really committing to this idea of civility. You might find new partnerships, changes in relationships, and you might think of others. In fact, if you think of others, too, type them into the chat box so you can share them with some of your colleagues on the webinar. The second area to measure is the impact on your organization. So think about how this work can help you develop a new orientation, approaches, and capacities to be more relevant and significant in your community when you turn more outward toward that community. So examples of these measures are you turned outward toward your community? And the Turn Outward quiz that I've given you that you can download, you can look at that and see whether or not that's the case for you. Have you placed a stronger emphasis on authentic engagement? Have you increased your capacity to engage with the community? Have you strengthened community relationships? So again, another way to think about how we measure our success here. And finally, I think you want to measure the impact on individuals. So you want to think about how this work changes, how individuals, including yourself, think about and work within your community. What kinds of changes are you observing in individuals, including those who work in the library or those who are working with you on these efforts outside the library? How oriented are those individuals now toward their community? Are people learning a new set of practices and skills that enable embedded, authentic engagement efforts? Learning how to moderate a forum really can help you learn how to work with your community in lots of different ways. It's a great skill to apply beyond just deliberative forums. And is there an increased sense of what we call civic agency, or what Harry Boyd defines as civic agency, that is citizen as co-creator of a democratic way of life? Harry Boyd, some of you may know, he lives in Minneapolis, which is considered the most civically healthy community in America. So finally, you want to build the capacity of the community to do this kind of work. So one of the most valuable outcomes of this work can be increasing your community's capacity to do what we call concert, that is to work together to solve problems. It's kind of like getting an orchestra with different instruments to play together. So it's also important to build the infrastructure, not just the capacity, but the infrastructure to do this work. That includes developing a pool of conveners, moderators, recorders, and issue framers, having the physical facilities to do this, learning how to publicize it, learning how to build those partnerships, etc. That's really building your infrastructure. So when you want to do one of these, you don't have to start from scratch every time and and go through all 4 of our webinars to learn how to do it. So you want to be capable of stepping in to help this effort without so much effort yourself. And finally, developing strengthening connections throughout your community, including in areas formerly not involved with your services and programs. That's a way for the community to really develop the capacity to do this kind of work. So now I'm going to turn over the mic to Patty Deneen, who's a member of the National Issues Forums Institute and the ALA Center for Civic Life Advisory Committee. Patty.
Thanks, Nancy. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I'm Patty Deneen, and I'm located in Gibsonia, Pennsylvania, which is near Pittsburgh. I want to spend just a couple minutes talking about the part of your forum planning that has to do with deciding what issue to use for your forum. One of the things that really helps in making this decision, I think, is to get really clear right at the beginning about what your goals or objectives are for your forum. And this might take a number of different forms depending on where you are in your programming and what you're trying to do. So, for example, are you just trying it out to see if this is a kind of programming that's a good fit for your library? Perhaps it's something that's compelling to people in your community. Are you looking to address a local issue, or perhaps local interest in a national issue? Are you interested in helping your community take part in a national project? Once in a while there's some very interesting national projects that National Issues Forums Institute, Kettering Foundation, America Speaks, and others may have, in which they're trying to get as many people involved in talking about a particular issue so that they can gather as much information as possible. That can be really compelling for people who might be interested in coming to the forum. If that's the case, you might need to find out what the deadline is to get information back to the organizers about that, and that'll help with the timing as you plan different parts of your forum. One question is whether there are pre-prepared materials available on the issue that you're considering, and if not, does that raise the possibility that you would need to frame that issue yourself? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that because that's a lot more involved and requires more resources and time. So a couple other things you might want to consider as you decide what issue topic you want to focus on. The photo you see there is a group of college students who made up a fairly large planning committee. Of course, one of the things that they had to do was to address what issue they were going to use, or sometimes the reason that a forum is being planned is because there's a community that's interested in a particular issue. In that case, the issue topic is kind of already pre-chosen and you do the rest of the planning. Otherwise, you'll need to make a decision. So some factors to consider: do the materials need to be free? Is there some money to purchase materials, or perhaps you have a co-sponsor that would be willing as their part to subsidize costs? Can you do a little polling in the community to find out what people want to talk about? And this can be fairly informal, not real involved. Or have others in your community already done some polling? And as I said, I think local newspapers make a terrific partner, and perhaps they've done some polling or gathered information about issues that people are concerned about. And then you may want to do just a little soul searching about the issue that you're choosing. Are you able, as an organization, to be neutral about the issue? And maybe also as important, even if you're pretty sure you can remain neutral, can you be perceived by the community as being neutral about that particular issue? Once you've decided on a topic for your forum, the next question is where to purchase or acquire issue guides. And I really do highly recommend using materials that frame the issue, particularly to promote a deliberative kind of talking, because it really helps set the stage to help people deliberate and to get into a problem-solving mode rather than argument or debate. So the choices in general are prepared issue guides or make it yourself issue framing, as I mentioned before. Some sources of prepared issue guides include, and this is not an all-inclusive list, the list is growing, but the American Library Association has some issue guides. National Issues Forums Institute has a growing list of issue guides. We try to add 2 or 3 issue guides a year and go back and update some of the older issue guides. Everyday Democracy, Public Agenda, the Choices Program at Brown, and sometimes there's others who do local and regional issue framing and then make their frameworks available to people. About framing an issue yourself. Framing an issue can be done in a variety of ways. It usually takes some special expertise, training, or practice to be able to come up with a functional issue guide. It often takes a good bit of time, weeks, months, or sometimes even longer. The materials vary a lot. They can be just a couple of pages and kind of an outline form, or much longer and more professional. Here you see a picture of an issue guide called Homeless in Waikiki that some folks in Ohio framed and made available. It does take more resources and time to frame an issue yourself. These are 2 pictures of a couple of very different formats. On the left is just a kind of a spread out outline of the issue, who is responsible for students' success in school. I've listed this as a simple outline, and this comes by way of Betsy McBride. But I think Betsy can probably also tell you that even what we're calling a simple outline represents a tremendous amount of time and effort put into that. On the right-hand side is a cover picture of a issue book called Drawing Straws, Working Together to Manage Oklahoma's Growing Demand for Water, that was framed by folks in Oklahoma, and I know it took probably over a year to create that issue guide. Once you've decided on the issue, you've located the materials or created them yourself, then you want to consider how to get the materials into people's hands. People don't always read the materials before they come to the forum, even if they're available, but some people do read the materials and greatly appreciate having the opportunity to see them. Some of the possibilities include letting people know that they can pick the materials up at the library. Perhaps you're going to mail or email the materials to people who have registered to let you know that they're interested in coming. In this case, in the picture, the Philadelphia Inquirer printed the issue framework that was about jobs in the newspaper, and then they also had copies of it available at the forum for people who hadn't seen it or for people who walked in without materials. And of course, at the end of your forum, when you have people there, it's a great opportunity to ask people what their suggestions might be for issue topics for future forums that they think other members of the community might be interested in coming to talk about. So it's a good chance to survey people very quickly and ask them for their suggestions. Before I turn this over to Carolyn, since this is the last webinar, I just wanted to take a second and thank my fellow webinar team members in the American Library Association for giving me the chance to work with them. It's really been terrific. I've appreciated being part of this series. And I want to say a special thanks to all of you who work in libraries. Libraries and librarians have enriched my life in so many ways I can't begin to describe here today. But from the bottom of my heart, I do want to thank you for your very important and much appreciated work you do. And now the next part of our webinar, Carolyn Kaywood is going to address some questions, including the important pressing questions of where can we find partners to help us in our forum planning, and how do we get people to come to our forum. So I now turn it over to Carolyn. Thank you.
Hi, and I have to say that it has been wonderful working with the people on these 4 webinars. It's been exhausting too. So I'm talking about who are your potential partners and allies. Now, you may remember a few minutes ago we were talking about 3 levels of goals that came from the National Coalition on Dialogue and Deliberation. This actually impacts the 3rd order goals. By pulling in partners to help you do the work, you are increasing civic capacity and you're improving the community's ability to do problem solving, all by helping yourself. And one of the benefits is that your partners find new partners through you. They discover more allies. So there's a lot to be said for partnership. And let's start by thinking about your library organization and its parent organization, whatever that might be. Who needs to listen to the community? Now, your typical library definitely will need to if there's a building program, or perhaps to look at a change in acquisition priorities as we all adjust to electronic resources, or maybe policy changes that are going to impact your users. And all of this contributes to internal capacity building if you use dialogue and deliberation. Then there are particular units perhaps that you can see as partners, teen advisory group. If you've done the public library strategic planning process, that involves some forum-like activities. And if you're in a public library, you may look around and see that the city planning department or the police or public health or some board or commission needs to listen to the community. In an academic setting, not everybody's aware, but agricultural extension agents are really big into civic engagement. They make excellent partners. You might look at a special studies center like women's studies, or obviously the political science department, and as people have been mentioning earlier, law schools might be interested in this as well. In a school setting, some schools are actually actively pursuing civic education, so there's a lot of possibility there. Or student government. Debbie's worked with a reading club, and all school systems have that perennial problem when you go to redraw the school district lines and kids have to change schools. That's a really good situation to deal with through dialogue and deliberation. We've been asked too by people what might be the options for special libraries. And one we know of, the University of Georgia is partnering with the Carter Library, presidential library. I think some of the military libraries, some of the newspaper libraries, state libraries, think about the possibilities, suggest them in chat. And then turn outward. Look outside your institution. Who are the other potential partners and allies? Please put your thoughts into chat. Think in terms of both public process organizations, like the League of Women Voters, the Urban League, and as Debbie's fond of reminding me, other types of libraries. Academic researchers who are thinking in terms of civic health. And then there are the issue or topic organizations like the Sierra Club. Ellen's mentioning cultural institutions, maybe the Red Cross. And as I've said a little earlier, this starts your community capacity building as well as providing you with the help to get the event off the ground. Think really broadly. Who are we not thinking of? That's always a good question to ask at every stage of civic engagement. Who's not at the table? Who's not here? What would they say if they were here? So think as broadly as you can. Maybe if you're in a college, the admissions office needs to work on the tuition costs. Public libraries can be nervous about working with the faith community, but they shouldn't. There's ample opportunities there. Think about who uses your meeting room. They may have an interest in civic engagement. So, work your network. You reach people through people. That's what my little diagram's intended to show. And now that you've found them, do it early so that you can bring them into your planning process. Make sure you clarify with your partners that this is not advocacy. This is a critical point, that they actually come to understand what we're doing here and to understand neutral ground and providing a safe space for all points of view. And then find out, what do they need out of this? Are they going to be doing a report? Do they have a questionnaire they want participants to fill out? What kind of results are they looking for? And use your partners to help your outreach. Getting diverse participants is an absolutely critical part of having a good forum. And that diversity means diverse viewpoints, not just diverse demographics. You can have a rainbow of people who all have the same opinions. So use your partners to do some of your outreach to find participants of diverging viewpoints. And they'll know ways to publicize that you might not. They may have suggestions on what media will reach your target audiences. Also, remember the impact of a personal invitation. It's easy to ignore a flyer. It's a lot harder to ignore you in person inviting someone to participate. Now, as I noticed Betsy mentioned in the chat, having done all this work, you want to maintain this network. Because, of course, you're going to keep doing these forums, aren't you? So, set reasonable expectations for participation, the amount of time and effort that's involved, what the results are going to be. You know, don't promise that you're going to change society tomorrow. If you're doing registration or sign-in at your event, be sure that it's an opt-in process for any future communication. I know Betsy's going to pick up on that point. You can also, of course, use that moment to announce any future events. You can invite the news media. Follow-up publicity can be very helpful, as well as pre-event publicity, and you have better photo ops. Then stay in touch with everybody so you don't have to do this from scratch every time. For example, you might be able to share some training opportunities. You may want to go ahead and set up a steering committee. You might consider polling people who participated after some months have passed to see what's changed. And then, you know, there's all the possibilities of Facebook and wikis and emailed newsletters to sustain your network. And now I'm going to pass this on to Betsy, who has the details to make your event a success.
Thank you, Carolyn, and hello from Boise, Idaho. My section of the webinar has lots of lists. And why me, I'm not sure. I'm not the list kind of person normally, but they are all available on the ALA website, or you can contact me and I will send them directly to you. So, before I start on team readiness, let me take this brief opportunity to remind you all that this work is not hard. It is only unfamiliar. In fact, after you feel a little bit comfortable with just a little practice, you won't call it work anymore. Like us, you will call it fun. So if you like people and you're curious, you are perfectly suited. So we invite you to join the network of practitioners, put your foot in, and stay in touch. So now on to team readiness. We hope that you'll gather your team to talk through the details. Every time we've done forums, we've invested some time thinking about, well, how will they find the room? What should the sign say? Who's the best person to greet at the table? This step will raise everyone's comfort level, and you'll make the team more ready to function as a team. There will be more group understanding, and best of all, it will just be more fun. Now on this list, notice the fourth bullet, which says identify collection materials for display. You're going to have people coming to the forum, and this will be an opportunity to relate to the issue and your collection. You can remind folks of the resources in your library. You can have actual books on display on a table. You could hand out bibliographies related to the topic, or you might even add a link or something else to your invitation. This listing is related to the comfort of your guests. This will take some advanced planning too. First, you need to decide in advance about your pre-registration policy. Do you want folks to just show up? Or do you have an actual logistical need for a rough estimate? And keep in mind that folks will walk through the door that haven't registered in advance. But this is okay. The meetings are open. And of course, on the other side, you will have some that have registered and then have unforeseen circumstances intervene. But if your numbers are large and you know them in advance, you can divide the group into rooms or decide to take names for a second forum. We've seen it done both ways. And how you invite the public in matters. Whatever form you use, be it flyers, media announcements, or electronic means, think in advance about your strategic messaging. You want to send a signal that attendance is meaningful. And by meaningful, I mean a clear articulation of why this is important, why someone should come and participate. So beyond the time and the place and registration and contact information, think about the please come and involved messages you want embedded in your invitation. So, related to the sign-in sheets, if you want to use the names that you gather on the sign-in sheets for further communication or invitations, you should add a column where they can individually indicate their acceptance of further contact. In other words, you should be asking for permission to contact these attendees in the future. In Virginia Beach, our city attorney gave us language to put at the top of a column on our sign-up sheet that read something like, "Yes, I would like to receive further information." So, finally, the team member you have at the sign-in welcome table, prepare that person in advance to answer the predictable questions, which can range from, "So what will be done with this work?" to the more predictable, "Where are the restrooms?" Good workable space is half the battle. You want it accessible, not too big so that it doesn't feel like you expected more people and they didn't come. And you can handle this by seating arrangements, but also not too crowded. The forum space principle is equal access for all. You want to have a forum where any member of the public can actually get in and then feel fully part of the conversation. You want a room set up that signals equal access for all participants. Everyone around the table or everyone in a circle. But no lecture hall setups where some folks have front row seats and others have back row seats and some folks are looking at the backs of other heads. And lastly, plan to arrive early. You may need to move some chairs, hang a sign, or locate the plugs. And put the sign-in materials out first, because we can guarantee someone will show up 15 minutes early. We call this list Barb's Box because in Virginia Beach we worked with a very organized woman who could always be counted on to arrive with a box packed with every contingency in mind. We included this list because another important principle that we want to remind you of again is to be prepared. Prepare your team and prepare yourself. You'll just have more fun. We decided to share this flyer with you. We've heard some requests about messaging and invitations to forums. So currently, Carolyn is a member of a webinar team that's working on forums related to performance and success in schools with teachers and parents in Norfolk, Virginia. That parent and teacher group adapted a national issue book for their use in conducting community conversations. And you've seen the example of the issue map that we did for them several slides back in Patty's section. Now, please notice the language on this flyer. It's very clear about what the stakes are and who should care. It also references an action planning session that will follow the community forums. Norfolk Public Schools will use the results of the forums as the basis for those community action planning meetings. So, and this flyer, I might also note, has also dates and contact information, but we couldn't all fit it on the slide. So, before I turn this back to Nancy Chronic, I also want to thank you for taking time to come and meet with us in this virtual session, and to thank my co-presenters and all the people on the team. Nancy's had us meeting every Monday morning, and in California that means 7 a.m. In Idaho it's only 8. But it's been a remarkable effort for the very best profession in the world, and protectors of democracy are librarians. So, to Nancy.
Thanks, Betsy, and it's so nice to bring into our Center for Civic Life non-library people who have such affection for us. It always feels great to have them talk about how important we are. Sometimes I think we don't realize just how much we're treasured in the community. So Let's keep in mind that we started off this whole series saying that libraries are the place where democracy happens, and I hope that following our 4 webinars that you believe in this now and you're ready to go out there and just do it. So this series addressed basic deliberation, deliberative forums, but there's many other kinds of engagement techniques. There's a lot of common threads among them, and they are that safe space for conversation, people-to-people discussions, neutral ground, and focus on policy issues that people care about. So we plan to hold additional webinars in the fall. So if you have ideas for them, let us know. So our next poll question is, what do you still need to do to make these forums happen? So if there's other things that we can help you with, just type them into the chat box. We want to hear from you, know what works and what doesn't work, and we assume that some of you at least are going to have the courage to just get out there and make it happen. I see somebody, what is it, time twister? Yeah. So we've mentioned several times that we are going to host our own forum at ALA Annual as a pre-conference, so you can come and join us to talk about who do I trust to protect my privacy. We've done this several other times at ALA, and it's a really rich discussion, a discussion about an issue that all of us care about. You can download all the materials for the forum on our ALA Connect site, which Debbie is also giving you the link to. And all of our other webinars, and then today's as well, are going to be archived or already archived on the programminglibrarian.org site. And I suggest if you're about to do one of these forums, do check in with those webinars if you feel you need a brush up. I know I always felt good to have a brush up just before I did one, even when I was experienced. Some other programs of interest, Maureen Sullivan, President-elect of ALA, is linking into these issues, and she is going to host Richard Harwood, who was at Midwinter as well, who will be rolling out his new study of Main Street, and we will have a conversation about it at Midwinter on Sunday, or not Midwinter, at the annual conference on Sunday afternoon, so I hope you can join that session. We also hope you'll stay connected with us. We have a membership initiative group, Libraries Foster Civic Engagement, which meets at every conference, every ALA conference. And at annual, we're meeting on Sunday morning from 10:30 to noon. There's a flyer about the session in the downloadable files. We also have an ALA Connect site where a lot of these materials are, as well as a blog, the Center for Civic Life blog, which we hope to upgrade soon. And finally, we have a listserv that you can sign up for, and you can get more information about signing up for that listserv from some of the materials that we have for you, as well as Debbie's giving you lots of hints here. So for those future webinars, here's some ideas that we've thought of. World Cafes, we had a World Cafe at ALA Midwinter, community conversations, which people thought were really cool. Open space technology, if you've ever experienced that, that can be a great way to convene groups. Community conversations, these are conversations to learn more about what our community cares about. I am in the middle of doing them at Rutgers University, and we have had spectacular, rich discussions with people from across the university. It's been very helpful to us. My last one is on Thursday, so I'm really looking forward to getting even more different perspectives on how people care about the community and what kinds of priorities they have. E-democracy is another one, and how to frame deliberative dialogue. So if you have any other ideas, we'd love to hear from you. We want to continue the conversation on these webinars, as well as have that conversation continue at your library. So finally, if you have any other questions, certainly type them into the chat box. We have a couple minutes, not too many. Here's contact information for all of us. We also have an ALA Connect site to continue the conversation. And most important, I want to thank all of you for joining us. Some of you I've seen on the list have been around several times, if not for all the webinars. But I particularly want to thank all of the presenters who have worked so hard. We have become such a great team. I can't imagine a Monday without all of you. Every Monday morning for 4 months, we have been planning each of these webinars. So I want to thank them, and also our colleagues in the Public Programs Office who've just been spectacular collaborators. So let's see what else people are talking about here. Tammy, hi Tammy, we're so glad you could join us. Tammy contacted us, really interested in learning how to do this, so it's great that you've been part of the webinar. Oh, Jackie, thanks. Oh, you guys are great, saying good things. We also want to know, do you have any questions for us? Maybe use a SWOT analysis. Colleen, I'm with you, too many priorities, right? So I think if you want to know from my personal experience, we have done these community conversations at Rutgers. We did 2 last week and 1 this week. This is the first time we've ever done anything like this. And people from around the university, from vice presidents on down, said, gee, this is terrific. Nobody's ever done this kind of discussion with us before. How can we do more of them? I mean, they've just been incredibly rich, and we can't get people to leave at the end. So, to me, that's a really great measure of our success. So now they're turning to us and saying, what else can you convene us for? We really like this. So, okay, somebody's asking where the slides are. Debbie will probably give you our ALA Connect site. We have an actual page on the site that has downloads. We will put on the slides as well. The problem with our slides is with all the pictures, sometimes they're a little bit too big for what the ALA Connect site can handle, so we have to divide them up. But we'll get them up there for you. Let's see, I also need to view the previous seminars. I need help choosing a topic, my forum. Oh, good, so somebody's got a forum planned already. So any help we can give you, we're happy to talk to you about it. One of the ways to come up with topics is to really listen to your community. What's on their mind? If you have any community media, community social media, or if you can convene conversations. Another thing might be just to talk to people that come in the library, see what kind of issues are on their mind. I don't know if I see, let's see. Betsy suggests to have Jackie contact her, right, on choosing an issue. Patty did the presentation on choosing an issue. I will say one of the ways that we chose issues when I led the efforts in State College was based on whatever issue books were coming out of the National Issues Forums each year. And maybe Ellen or Patty can give us a hint of what's expected. The new books, which were great if you were doing these often, because you'd have probably already recycled many of the older books, but they don't go out of date too quickly. Sometimes they do. Let's see. Carolyn suggests letters to the newspaper. Great idea. Local issues, those are really important. Now, sometimes it's really hard to do a local framing, but what we did in State College, we had a big issue with alcohol drinking on campus, the town gown problem. So we took a book that the National Issues Forums had done on underage drinking, and we then had a class actually use it as an extra. It was the class project where they took the framing and they just filled in local information. So they did everything from interviewing the police department, finding out from mental health people in the hospital how bad the problem was, and then they actually did the graphic presentation of the issue, and they were just spectacular. They had 2 groups, and it was great. And then they actually led the conversations in the community, between the community and the students. It was terrific. So you can do a lot of hybrids that work, and what's best is if it works for your community. Let's see, Betsy says in West Virginia, they've done a big state project on prescription drug abuse. A lot of these local forums that are locally framed are available through the National Issues Forum site that Patty talked about. So if you go on that site and just look at what books are available, you may get some thoughts about what you might do. And you know what? If it's not perfect, just get out there and try it. You never know. And what I found in State College was I'd go looking for partners for each one of these forums. I met so many interesting people, And so many of them had no experience either with forums or the library. So it was a great way to cultivate new people. And we just thought we'd get a group together and we'd try to be really creative about who in the community could we partner with. And so we did one on energy, and we found lots of people at the university who did research on energy, from nuclear to um, new forms of solar, fracking, whatever. But we also invited in a guy who had a bicycle shop, a recumbent bicycle shop. And he just was delighted to be part of this conversation and never had been tagged before for anything like this. So, creativity really can make the forum and the experience of planning the forum far more interesting. So let's see what else we got going here. Issues. Oh, candidate issues. This is a big year. We've got an election going. What's on the minds of local candidates? Banking regulation. That would be fun. So Betsy says, resist the urge to set up the forum as a debate. That's right. You want to keep it civil and you want it to be a discussion, a conversation. So I see that one of our participants is going to the American Democracy Project conference in San Antonio in early June. This is a group that's part of ASCU, the American Association of State Colleges and Universities. The K-12 groups are interested in civic engagement. The state colleges and universities are doing spectacular work in this arena. If you are with us from a university or in a university town, there's lots of times groups affiliated with the university or at the university doing this work, and they love to have partners. So there's lots of opportunities here. Conferences like the ADP conference are a great way to connect with people that you might not have ever considered before. And they tend to be library lovers as well as really interested in the civic world. Okay, so we've got people typing away. Let's see how many. We've still got several of our participants on. So if you have any other questions, we're happy to address them. I think if you're like me, this has been a really rich discussion. The chat box has been going so fast, it's hard to keep up with all of the discussions going on. Oh, here, Laura Wolf is telling us about the civic engagement series that they've had for a couple of years now at the Central Library in Des Moines. They're doing 5 forums at a branch library. Good for you, Laura. Can you tell us some of your topics? And Ellen is suggesting maybe the NIF older book on money and politics is still pretty relevant. Certainly the issues have not gotten resolved. So yeah, here's the link to that. So we think during an election year, it's a really perfect time to focus on the library as a civic space where people can talk about issues that they care about and not just be about people shouting each other or advertising that is focusing on all the negatives of opponents. So it's a great way for people to realize that there is a space in their community that they can talk about issues of concern. So you're getting lots of links for NIF guides. I suggest you just go to the NIF site as well and explore around, because NIFI actually is the .org is the site, because there's lots of good stuff. And Patty didn't say too much about it, but Patty is she runs the site, and she has lots of great other things on that site. And there's some chat that goes on related to that site. You can learn a lot. Okay, somebody's talking about the League of Women Voters. Definitely a partner. When I was in State College, they were a key partner. American Association of University Women, the newspaper, the the local community foundation, another great group and one that sometimes has money for you. We would get money from the American Association of University Women had an annual book sale, and they often gave us several $1,000s a year, so we could do things like buy books and have some food at our forums. I don't know. Carolyn, do you want to talk a little bit about the League of Women Voters in Virginia Beach? Let's see if she comes on. She's having some audio problems. She may not have gotten. So, I don't know if Angela, if you think that we can. Oh, here. Oh, great. Laura's putting in her topics. It takes a while to type. Let's see. Bullying. Oh, we were talking about bullying before. Oh, we're very interested, Laura, in hearing about bullying. We were talking before we started the webinar today about the Rutgers student, the sentencing that happened yesterday, and how can we deal with more dialogue about bullying, especially with the sentencing. A lot of people are talking about what they thought about the case, and it brought up so many good issues. So, what a great topic. Oh, Marjorie talks about thank you for improving the value of the library in the community. Yeah, I mean, I think that this effort really does create a different sense of what the library is about. Some of us believe this is what the library should be about, but a lot of people in our communities and a lot of people in our libraries don't think of the library in this way. But I like to say, based on others that I've heard, that the library is a safe place for access to a diversity of ideas, but it should also be a safe place for the exchange of that diversity of ideas. So hopefully people will start to see it more as not just a repository, but more to the right of the continuum I showed you earlier. Oh, Laura said they're going to frame the bullying topic. Oh, Laura, we are looking forward. What a great opportunity for teachers. Yeah, Debbie's definitely interested in that topic as well. So you can imagine how we feel at Rutgers University, wanting any kind of tools we can get to work with our students on these issues. Oh, college student debt. Yeah, what a great one. I don't know if Ellen is still on, but Ellen, that's a great one. Ellen is actually coming to you today from the Kettering Foundation, where the National Issues Forum is based. So she can certainly encourage that topic of student debt, one that, for those of us who are in universities, is a really serious problem facing the university's future as well as our community's future. So here's from Ellen. I think it comes up in the Role of Higher Education book that is about to be released. Terrific. So, and that whole issue about higher education, what a perfect forum to have for those of you who are in universities or in university towns or in schools that are trying to prepare children for their next step in life. So, another great topic and one that you can get just a really broad array of people to participate in and help plan. So we're over now by several minutes. Angela, how about if I turn over the mic to you and you can close out the session for us. Thanks again, everybody, for a really rich discussion. We are so excited about your enthusiasm because this is something that the group of us have been working on for years, and we're just so happy to embrace more people in this work that we think is really a special way for libraries to interact with their communities. So thank you all again. Angela?
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you so much. And thank you, Patty, Carolyn, and Betsy, as well as our chat moderators, Ellen and Debbie. We do so appreciate all of the hard work you've put into this webinar and the three that preceded it. Again, be sure to check those out at the website at programminglibrarian.org. And to the participants that are still joining us, just little reminder, you'll be getting a survey from the ALA Public Programs Office tomorrow morning. When you get that in your email, please do take a few minutes to share your feedback with us. That is so important to us at ALA as well as at the Center for Civic Life. It will help determine the content for future sessions. And thank you one more time to the ALA Center for Civic Life and to all of you for joining us, and have a lovely evening.